Very excited about this. Always fun when we get to talk about Star Wars canon in this regards. DelRey, Star Wars, from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back. It's about to hit bookshelves this month. Pete has his hands on an advanced copy, and if you're not familiar with this, it's an anthology celebrating 40 years of Empire Strikes Back. Very similar to a version that came out a few years ago for A New Hope, but it's 40 short stories by 40 different authors, voiced by different Star Wars alum and just other celebrities, reimagining that classic sequel through the eyes of some pretty cool heroes, villains, droids, and even creatures. From a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back, that arrives on shelves November 10th. And my friend Pete Fletzer, you got your hands on this book. And there's a couple of moments that really just stand out to you after one reading, right?
Yeah, it's a fun. First of all, it's a lot thicker than I expected, and there's a lot of pages. But it's there's a handful of really great stories in there. To me, it's funny. One of the stories that when we first found out what the stories were going to be, when they were unveiled a couple months ago, or a month ago, I guess it was, and we talked about it here on the show. One of the stories I was looking forward to was the story by Mike Chen called "Disturbance," about sort of the moment that that Palpatine figures out the Luke Skywalker Darth Vader connection, and or that Luke was the one who blew up the Death Star, and why Vader's obsessed with finding him. I won't tell you anything about the story. It's so well done. It swings for the fences, and it definitely the way Mike Chen actually sort of makes you feel like you understand what a Force vision might look like is great. That's always sort of a risky thing to do. That's a fun story. There's a really fun story by Brittany Williams. And that's one of the great things about this book. First of all, you have 40 stories, 40 different authors, and you're getting authors that we know. Jason Fry writes a great story in there. Kevin Scott writes a story about Jackson, the green rabbit creature that we were talking about before. Delilah Dawson has a story in there. So there's authors, and there's authors that we haven't met before or heard from before. But as I was just saying, Brittany Williams writes a really fun story about, there was a big sort of hullabaloo, is that a word that we can still use, about after we saw Solo, a Star Wars story. People were saying, well, that line when 3PO says your ship has the most peculiar dialect, we get that story. We get the story of the connection between 3PO and the ship, and L337 makes her return. So that's a lot of fun as well. But so there's sort of three reasons I say that these books are worth getting. First of all, I need to preface this by saying I was a big fan of the A New Hope version. I thought that was so well done. You all know. So first of all, number one reason why I love this book is I have no attention span, and so it is great for me to be able to pick up a book and read one or two stories in a 20-minute period and just sort of do it that way. Number two, you can revisit some of our favorites like Jason Fry in a story that he shares, or you can discover new things. And number three, you do get stories that some are heartbreaking. The way Mike, read Disturbance first when you pick this up, the Mike Chen story, because the way he gives you insight into the way Vader thinks and what Palpatine uncovers from him, brilliant, and in many cases heartbreaking. But it also ends with the most ridiculous story about the Journal of the Wills writing The Empire Strikes Back. So it's great. It's funny. It's heart-wrenching. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, it's a thick book, but you can pick it up and just read something when you got some time to kill. It's a lot of fun.
You mentioned the A New Hope version. The one moment that I really wanted a story behind from A New Hope was why they didn't fire on those escape pods at the beginning. And there's a background story to that. And it's arguably my favorite from that book. I think for me personally, the moment that I want to explore from Empire Strikes Back, that scene with Han and Leia in the corridor of Echo Base. What did happen back in Ord Mantell? Like, what happened then? That I don't know if that story is explored or not, but when I learned about this book, that was a conversation that came to my mind. Arzu, You and I are on the other side of this. We don't have this book in
Solid.
hand yet, but what is it? What is something that excites you as someone who loves to read the Star Wars books? What really has you hyped for this new release?
Well, mostly because I love the first one. The first one was actually the first canon book I read at all. And it's kind of what made me want to read the rest of it. So yeah, just getting to like revisit it in these minute kind of like, some of them are funny, some of them are going to break your heart. Like I already know this. I already know I'm going to be laughing and crying in equal measure. And so that's why I'm excited. But I'm also very excited to hear that the Wills get another story, because that's my favorite story from the first one.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that they're back.
Yes. And as humorous as before. It's great.
Excellent.
Well, and something that I'm really excited about this is because you have 40 different authors, you're also getting 40 different storytellers in the sense of the audiobook. And it's something that we talk a lot on this show is you can read the book and have a great experience, but the audio versions of Star Wars books are radio, like they're like classic radio episodes from like the 30s and 40s, these big over-the-top productions with music and the sound effects. I know John Hamm is narrating one of these 40 short stories. So that really excites me. I will be buying this book, but I will also be using my Audible points to get the audiobook to listen to in the car.
Same. Yep.
It just adds so much, Pete. I mean, I think that's maybe half the fun of reading Star Wars books here in 2020.
Yeah, and it's cool that they didn't just have one author or one voice actor do it, and the fact that they're breaking it up, I think, is really a lot of fun. One other thing that's really interesting to note about this that I didn't know until recently was that all the authors in this book have foregone their pay for the book so that money can be donated to an organization called First Book, which is a charity that DelRey and Lucasfilm have donated to and are donating to ensure that materials and educational materials and books are donated to kids in need. So it's a cool thing on top of everything else. And in a world that could use a little charity, it's nice to see that they're doing it sort of a Star Warsy kind of way. So
I thought you were about to quote the Thomas Rhett song that just came out with Reba, where it's like, in a world full of dark be the light. And I'm like, this is taking a very strange turn. This is a very strange book review. All of a sudden we're quoting 2020 country
music, the whole thing.
I'm so excited to read this book. Pete, you did a wonderful review for everyone to see on beyondtheblastdoors.com. You can check that out right now if you want to take a little bit deeper dive with Pete into what makes this book so special, why you need it. Again, it's out November 10th. Check it out.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.